And here we are. Another look at Bernard Reed's.
What?
Bernard Reed's, Joshua Reed's, Jason Reed's. We read Adam. We're reading again. Welcome to the book club. Welcome to the book club podcast. The most generic named podcast out there. We're the book club. We got our knitting needles ready. And today we're going to talk about Bootstraps because we love them.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
You know, Batman begins. Think of it as like Bootstraps begins.
Yeah, that's how
I'm thinking about it.
That's how I think about every portion of my life. Actually, I think about where the bootstrap begins and where it begins. You thought I was going to say end.
And actually, as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I just realized I was just using the alliteration of the letter B. Because, like, this guy is not the beginning of the bootstrapping philosophy at all, but...
Hell no.
So
this guy is a wannabe micro.
Hang on, man. Remember, they didn't hear the first time. We read Barbara Ehrenreich's classic, wonderful book, Nickel and Dimed. And so did this douchey guy who is, I guess, about the same age as us. Or at least he claims to have read it. And he claims that this book that he wrote is a refutation, a rebuttal of her book. And he shows right off the bat in his book that he didn't understand the point of Barbara Ehrenreich's book, which he described, to paraphrase as her saying that we're all doomed to forever struggle in like wage slavery. In fact, I probably said it more eloquently there, just with my jumbled words than he wrote it in his book. But that's not the point of her book either. I mean, I guess the point of her book would be we're all doomed to wage slavery if there isn't some like larger fundamental changes made in society. But he leaves that part out because he's a dum-dum who doesn't understand anything.
Well, he thinks there's no reason for those larger fundamental changes. He thinks things are good as they are now. He set out to prove that, yeah, even though you don't make a lot of money starting out, the American dream's alive and well.
Yeah, he wants to prove the American dream's still alive, and he never defines his terms, of course. He doesn't do a lot of things. Like, he explicitly says in the intro, like, I'm not going to show you a bunch of facts and arguments and figures. Like, okay. He's like, I'm just going to give you the real raw shit. like which just means like his dull explanation of like moment by moment of his experience. We should say what the premise of this book is, okay? It's called Scratch Beginnings. It's written by a guy named Adam Shepard. He wrote it when he was like fresh out of college, and his whole idea was, I'm going to leave my rich home in Raleigh, North Carolina, with only $25 in my pocket, a tarp, and an empty gym bag or whatever, right? I think that was everything.
I don't know if the gym bag was empty, but
I think the second time I read it, I noted that it said empty, which
I never paid attention to that part then.
I didn't the first time either, and because I assumed he brought a change of clothes, but he claims that he only had the clothes on his back.
Yeah, he kept talking about how the first thing he was going to buy were clothes, which was one of the first things he bought in the book. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, some critics of this book on Amazon seem to think that the majority of this stuff never happened, and I can see why they think that, and I think it's mostly because he's a bad writer. But yeah, so he's like, I wouldn't say he's a rich kid. It's hard to say exactly, but I think upper middle class probably.
Yeah, middle class, upper middle class. It's hard to tell.
They said what his dad's job was somewhere, but
I thought he was like a professor somewhere.
No, it was something even more like well paid than that.
The only time I got confused about it is because the end of the book, skipping way forward, he does mention that he has to move back to support his mom, like money-wise. His
parents are divorced. That's
okay.
Right. Him and his brother move in with his mom at the end. Yeah. In any case, he's not homeless to begin with, but in the book, he says, well, what have I got to lose? I'm basically broke. I'm practically homeless. And it's like, no, you're not either of those things. You live in a nice house with your parents.
And you just finished university.
And you just finished college. And I forget what he majored in, some douchey thing like business communications or something like that. But like something that you could probably get a job with, even circa 2006 or 2007. I think that's basically.
Imagine majoring in something that was employable.
Yeah, humanities major here. I think I'm the only major that sounds worse than to say I'm a philosophy major, because basically humanities just means I majored in philosophy, except it sounds stupider.
Philosophy just means that you're going to law school.
Usually, yeah.
Or that you want to be a computer programmer.
Or a barista. Or teach ESL in another country.
It's cool. I have a minor in philosophy.
Nice.
So before he goes, he collects $25.
Let's describe how he chooses where he's going.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, sorry.
He put a lot of names of cities in a hat. At least one name of a city, but he claims multiple. And he pulled it out randomly.
I'm of the mindset that this part is fake and that he just chose where he was going to go.
I mean, I'm of the mindset that he chose like 5 or 6 cities that were all comparable to each other.
Yeah. That makes sense too. That's fair enough. I mean, I think that basically equals out to the same thing.
Yeah.
So where does he go?
He ends up going to Charleston, South Carolina. Beautiful vacation spot. Been there a couple of times in my life.
Wait. I thought it was like next to Flint, Michigan, like the most hard scrabble inner city place you could go. No?
No.
It's like, it's a beautiful middle class vacation town.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where he went to be homeless. What a wonderful coincidence. I don't have the facts in front of me. We're going fact free on this recording because we've already recorded a 2-hour episode about this book, and this is the re-record. But I did point out in the past that a few. I mean, as reputable as you could get for something like this. It was like U.S. News ranked like top cities, top mid-sized cities or something, and Charleston was, I want to say, number 1 or number 2.
Well, it's a great city.
And so is Raleigh, which is where this guy's hometown is. Also, there's another thing that I watched, which is a documentary that Adam Shepard did years later, about 10 plus years after he wrote this book, where he sort of half-assedly tries to recreate a similar situation. And he does the same thing with the $25 and only the clothes in his back. But he, instead of setting out to earn however much money in a year, and
he wanted to save up $2,500 or something in a year.
Yeah, in the book, he wanted to have, after the course of a full year, he wanted to have his own apartment, a reliable automobile, and $2,500 in savings.
Or it might have been he wanted to have 2 months of his pay in savings, which is what people tell you to have as an emergency fund.
Might be confusing that with nickel and dimed, because Barbara Ehrenreich's thing was that she wanted to be able to pay for 2 months' rent.
Okay, that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. But in the documentary, again, he claims this was a randomly chosen city. He blindfolds himself and has some friend, or like it's like he brings like a camera crew with him, and they're gonna drive me to a random city. The criteria was like it couldn't be further than 16 hours away. I think that was it. And he always, his whole thing was like, I'm staying out of like cities like New York and Boston and Chicago. And the reason he gave in the documentary was such horseshit. He's like, I know those cities too well. It'll be too easy for me to be homeless there. So instead he ends up going to Knoxville, Tennessee, which, resident Tennessee expert, what's Knoxville like?
Nice university city. It's big.
Did you say the comparable to Charleston?
Oh, it's nowhere near as nice as Charleston.
Okay.
I mean, it's a nice city, but Charleston's like a beautiful city. I don't know. Knoxville's like UT. I just think of it as a university town.
I mean, in terms of like,
it's safe. It's
that's what I'm getting at, is like safety, and like in terms of like home, like how much homelessness there exists there.
I don't think there's a lot of homelessness in Knoxville at all.
Probably not. And but so yeah, I will occasionally reference the documentary, but I guess we should probably stick with the book more.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I cut you off. Like, beginning of his journey, what does he do? So Adam Shepard, in all of his brave bootstrapping glory, he gets on like the Amtrak or something equivalent.
Yeah, he decides to take a train down to Charleston, South Carolina.
And he has a little aside. I don't remember. It was really annoying though, about like why he chose to travel by train.
They didn't want to have to say goodbye to people again.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, he figured if he had a friend or family member drive them down to down to Charleston, that he'd have to say goodbye again, and they might want to hang out for the day and make sure that he was okay.
Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. I take it back. For some reason, I thought that he did this whole bullshit thing about like the poetry of riding the rails and all that shit, like trying to act like he's like a hobo, but it's like, dude, you're just a guy on an Amtrak. But anyway, I imagined all that anyway, so it's irrelevant, I guess. But he does sort of like give this.
I mean, had he wanted to like, do what normal people did, he would have just taken the Greyhound down there. Because that's a more authentic experience for American life.
It's cheaper and it's way less comfortable. I've taken Greyhounds, even just a short distance, and it sucked.
Yeah, I have too.
And I've taken trains, and trains are great.
I've taken a few Greyhounds.
Even Amtraks are fine.
I've only taken one Amtrak, and it was nice. It was fine.
Yeah, if I had to choose, I mean, yeah. I feel like he rationalizes like certain like comfortable choices with bullshit. And the train thing, I sort of get his point about like not wanting to put anybody out to drive him or whatever, but like you said, he could have taken the fucking bus.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. That's how he chose to get there.
It is a minor point. I'm just saying, like, even right off the bat, I thought this guy's inauthentic and sucks because of even the way he was talking about riding the train. But yeah, he arrives in Charleston like at nighttime, and he makes it sound like he's like going through some fucking terrifying, like journey into like inner city hell. And it's not at all. He's like, literally, it's like, if you break down what he says, it amounts to like, I saw young people of different races laughing together on the sidewalk. It's like terrifying. And I don't actually think this guy's racist at all, actually.
I don't either.
But his description where he tries to make it seem harrowing in the beginning, it's basically just like black people started like yelling stuff at me. And it wasn't even like abusive, really.
Oh, I guess what he goes through, let's get to the black people yelling at him, because I found that part entertaining, kind of. So when he gets to Charleston, I actually don't believe a lot of this, but apparently a lot of different homeless people asked him for money, and he had to keep being like, I don't have money. And then eventually, a not homeless person, but I guess like a drunk, asks him to go buy a 40 from the convenience store. So he buys her a 40, and she shorts him on the cash, which he complains about. It's like 25 cents or something. It doesn't matter. But anyways, he says 4 or 5 people asked to borrow some change whenever you talk to him, because for some reason he's trying to like make friends with the locals. And then he starts to walk towards crisis ministry or some bullshit. And that's when he's at the bus stop, and a group of guys start talking to him, and Adam's like instantly like, sorry, man, I don't have any money. I don't have any money to give you. I'm also broke. And the guy's like, what? I wasn't going to ask you for money. Who do you think I am? Homeless or something? And he like pissed him off.
And the guy justifiably turned it into a race thing. And Adam, being the guy who I don't think is actually racist, but I think he's dumb to the point where he like would accidentally say something racist. He was like, why are you trying to make this a race thing? Like, look, I'm just, he didn't say this, but I think doesn't he explain like what he's doing to that guy? Maybe I'm misremembering, but like, listen, I only have $25 or, but it does turn into that whole thing of like, why would you assume I'm about to ask you for money? And he's like, well, because a bunch of people already asked me for money as I was walking down this like main road. That's the other thing, is he was walking down like Main Street of Charleston, like,
which actually, I was going to say, it makes it hard for me to believe, because I've been to Charleston a few times, and there's not a lot of panhandlers in Charleston. In fact, really the only city I've really had to experience panhandlers in is New York. Maybe Chicago? No, just New York.
It happens in Chicago for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it happens in Charleston, but I don't think all that much.
It's hard to imagine, man.
I mean, Charleston, the thing that I think you would see is like on like one of the tourist streets, people like playing a fucking saxophone or something with their like instrument case out.
Which I don't think I told you about this part of the documentary. At one point, he buys a fucking harmonica from like a dollar store or whatever, and he doesn't know how to play the harmonica at all. But he just goes and stands on a corner in Knoxville and just starts like kind of playing random harmonica notes, and like he gets like $8 or something.
Jesus.
And I just wanted to punch him in the face. I'm like, And his whole thing is like, well, see, at least I'm earning it. I'm not just begging for it. It's like, you're basically begging, man. People are not amused by your non-harmonica skills on display, you know? It's more just like, it actually shows like this big fat tourist couple or whatever, like walking by, and they give him like $5. And he's like, oh, $5? Wow, can I dance with your wife? And it's like all this stupid chit chat. And like, but like the thing is they dropped that $5 in there because they were amused to see a tall, well-groomed white guy badly playing the harmonica. That's all it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the book. And here's the other thing I was going to say. Does he say he's walking towards knowingly towards the homeless shelter? Because I think he actually doesn't say that. I think in his mind, he's just walking on like a main street, trying to see like if he can find somewhere to sleep. Like, because he initially lays down on a bench, is the story.
What happened is he laid down on a bench. The cop came. The cop told him he shouldn't sleep there and told him where the homeless shelter is.
Which happened to be like I think he was like right in front of it though already. Because that cop...
Oh, I thought the cop came while he was like in downtown Charleston. That's why he ended up at the bus, because the cop was like, you should take the bus there. You're probably not going to walk there because it's a really long walk. But he decided to walk because he wanted to save money. Then when he gets towards the homeless shelter, what you're confusing is the other cop who worked at the homeless shelter named Sarge, but there's two different people.
You're right. I am confusing those two together. I thought Sarge was the one who like found him on the bench and then said like, hey, you don't sleep on that bench.
No, what
Come on
happened,
in.
by the time he gets to the homeless shelter, it's already done accepting people. So you're right. He was going to sleep outside of the homeless shelter.
Yeah.
Because he's just going to wait until the next day to where he could register. But
it's like an ex-cop, or is he...
He's either ex-cop or ex-military. I don't even know if they're clear about it.
Yeah. He's... In any case, there's this guy, Sarge, who's like...
Sarge makes me think ex-military, but I guess they have sergeants in the police force too, so...
I'm pretty sure he was...
And you know, an amazing thing, a lot of ex-military people become cops.
That's true. I think he was maybe even an active... No, he was just doing volunteer work at the homeless shelter. So he was like the volunteer... security, basically.
This is a whole aside, but I recently got to watch Rambo, and what a great cop killer movie. That's all it's about. It's just fucking Rambo versus the police.
You know what? I wonder what Frank Stallone thinks of that. Do you know Frank Stallone is like a huge MAGA idiot?
Sylvester?
His brother, Frank.
Well, Sylvester is too, though.
I think his brother is even worse.
Even more so?
Yeah.
Who knows, man? I think a lot of those fucking MAGA chuds probably love Rambo, even though
the first one is like very anti-authority, anti-cop specifically.
Yeah, it's anti-cop and it's anti-military, because basically the whole premise of the movie is that we take these young kids and turn them into weapons and then just like hang them out to dry when they come home.
Right.
Yes.
He's a disgruntled Vietnam vet, right?
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it.
Well, it's funny because I watched it on TV while I was traveling with Yane. I think it's the first time I'd ever seen it too.
You and I have actually been talking about how we've been meaning to watch that movie for like a year.
We should get around to it. Rambo is much cooler than Adam.
Yeah, Adam... Jerkface Shepard. So I don't know. Like, here's the thing: the premise seems like it could be so like promising, even if it is written from the perspective of like a bootstrapping like conservative asshole. Like you'd think like, oh, like I bet still some interesting shit happens to a guy who like hits the streets with only $25, but no, because on his first night he gets charity and led into this homeless shelter, which like, you know, it's not the ideal place to live, but, 3 meals a day, he has a place to sleep, he can shower, they have all kinds of resources, and this is a good thing. I think this is how,
Well, that's his point. He wants to show that things aren't so bad for lower class people. But actually, I think the place sounds like it sucks, and that, yeah, it's good that it's there.
I mean, I guess
I think we should be doing more for people.
Oh, I agree. But like I'm comparing it to like the Bowery, like in like New York. Where like the homeless people are just put into like literally into like little slots to like, and they still have to pay like 50 cents a night or whatever to like sleep in like what's not even the size of a closet or whatever. But I guess my point is that this guy is all against like handouts and about like the government like sticking its nose too far into things, and he thinks welfare should be slashed, and he spends the entire book benefiting from federal government programs like all the way through, including this shelter, which, yeah, of course it could be better, but like I really was surprised that on his first night, he didn't have to sleep on the street. I thought he was going to sleep on the street at least one night. And, or at least lie about it. Like, that actually makes me think that maybe he's not lying because he didn't, or he is lying and he's just too dumb to think of something cool to lie about. But,
well, I mean, I think he always planned to stay at a homeless shelter.
Yeah. But he doesn't like let you, he doesn't say that from the beginning. He makes it sound like, because that's, with the whole thing with like, I'm bringing this 8 by 10 foot tarp, like he's planning to like sleep in the woods and just shit.
In case. He wanted to use all the services that anyone has available to prove that you can use those services, and with those services, you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get a job that pays you enough to where you don't have to use those services anymore.
And remember what he says to his critics who say, yeah, but what if you were a single mother with 2 kids? Or what if you had severe mental illness?
You should try harder.
Yeah, he basically says that's no excuse. Like, his whole point is America needs an attitude adjustment. And as long as you think positively, like using the power of like The Secret, you can do anything, basically.
Yeah, he's totally into the work ethic thing and I mean, there's some truth to it. The harder, generally, I guess, the harder you work at something, the better results you'll get. But sometimes it's just more luck than anything else. And also, he's not disadvantaged by having to support other people or by disabilities, etc.
We also left out the crucial thing at the beginning of the book whereas Barbara Ehrenreich describes like in painstaking detail, and you can tell she's like really thought hard about like every sort of way that she has advantages that other people don't, like just automatically going into like her social experiment. She mentions being white, being able to speak English as a first language, which is like something I actually wouldn't have even thought of, to be honest, but like it's totally true. And on and on. And she gives a very like honest, like a reckoning of like this is how I'm privileged. And like, I have to keep this in mind when I'm evaluating my experience. Adam Shepard, on the other hand, doesn't for a moment consider that his race or gender or anything else, say growing up in Raleigh, North Carolina, none of that matters. We're all the same. We're all equal. We all have the same chance to do day laborer jobs and scrimp and save and eventually work our way up to living in a duplex, which is what he ultimately does. And to be fair, he does meet all of his goals except for having his own place because he is still sharing an apartment with someone else.
His friend BJ.
But he also apparently had like double the money that he set out to save. But that's also because he spends 2.5 months in the homeless shelter. 2.5 out of the 5 months that he actually did this experiment, because he ends up going home early because, and okay, this is legitimate reason. Like his mother was very ill. So yeah, he wasn't out there for a year. He did work his way up, I guess, from technically being homeless, even though he also doesn't really acknowledge the fact that he could go home to a comfortable living at any point in this journey. He really starts to, the most generous way you could put it is lose himself in the character of being homeless. Because he keeps referring to we and us when he's talking about the homeless community and himself. He's like, homeless guys like us, blah, blah, blah. And every time I wanted to, I was going to say throw the book, but throw my phone. And, yeah.
And I think a lot of people can't drag themselves out of the situation because of poor choices. So his two things are is some people do fine financially, but they make poor choices where their finances go to, so they still end up broke. Or some people are just lazy, so they never do well, and he tries to. He's like, I just don't get how they're happy with that, but that's how they choose to live. He takes a lot of privileged work. In that, what I mean privileged work is he doesn't do any like retail or service jobs. The whole time he does construction and kind of labor jobs, which I think generally pay better than even what Barbara had to set her sights on, because she was doing retail. She did service.
Yeah, and service.
Which is, I think, generally just less pay than labor.
I would say...
Well, I mean, I guess it's all labor, but I mean, like...
I would honestly say less dignity, too. Because, like personally, I would have been like Adam in that sense of, like, I would much rather do... I mean, this is what he does in the documentary. Okay, so this...
He does moving in the book.
In the book, he does event, but he also does, like, sort of, like, side work where he's basically just kind of, like, not doing, lawn care.
Odd jobs.
Just odd jobs, whatever. But I think where he thrives is like just the kind of miscellaneous like lawn work, like dig this thing and put my plant in it or whatever, like, but like it's illustrated perfectly in the documentary where he actually gets a call saying, we want you for this, server job, like, as a waiter. And he talks to the camera and he goes, nah, I've already waited tables a lot, which I think is a total lie, by the way. But he's just like, that's his excuse for it. He just doesn't take the job, even though the whole thing is supposed to be like, oh, he's desperate, he's got to get money. But he's like, I'd rather go around and put flyers into people's mailboxes, and wouldn't you know it? I mean, and of course he does this, but he goes to like the most upper class, like neighborhood in Knoxville.
Well, yeah, he's trying to show how people should be getting out of these situations.
Yeah, and I think what I said to you before about that example was, if he wasn't this sort of like blandly good-looking, tall, white dude, he would have never gotten those jobs.
Probably not.
When you just go knock on someone's door, if he was like a little more raggedy looking or of another race, I mean, I really don't think it's a stretch to say that, that aspect of him is what helps him, and he doesn't appreciate that or acknowledge it. That's what makes me so crazy about him, is that if he at least acknowledged it, I would like have way more respect for him, but he just doesn't. He just thinks, well, why can't everybody be like me? What else?
Why can't everyone be like him? Motivated.
What a horrible world. We'd all be running shitty websites called
And he becomes
practice
Adam speaks.
empathy.
He becomes just one of those people that is all about you get what your attitude gives you. So like he starts doing the whole refuse to take no as an answer when he's looking for jobs. He won't settle. He demands more money, better deals, etc. Preaches the coupon life. He doesn't actually talk about coupons, but he does preach shopping at Goodwill, etc. And I'm sure he did use coupons when he was grocery shopping.
You know, it also
that.
betrays his sort of class superiority. Is you can if he doesn't say it outright, it's obvious that he's never set foot in a Goodwill before then, because he talks about it like it's a revelation. He's like, "Can you believe these places exist with cheap used things?"
Being that I'm fairly certain I'm the same age as him, he just didn't hang out with hipsters.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about it because I definitely did like all of my shopping at thrift stores as well. And I'll admit part of that probably was me being a fucking irritating bohemian.
I did as well, but it wasn't because of any... I didn't have to shop at thrift stores. I went to thrift stores because I thought it was cool to wear old man clothes at one point in my life.
I thought you could find... I liked the stylistic thing of like, oh, look at the weird shit you can find. But at the same time, I've never been in the mindset of wanting to buy new clothes because I think they're just fucking overpriced. So anyway, that's my deal with thrift stores. But he talks about it like it's this magical land that he found like some like special secret. And the one he goes to in Knoxville, because one of the first things he does is he goes to Goodwill in Knoxville and he buys a Justin Bieber backpack, hilarious, which he uses throughout the rest of the movie. But I just remember noting, I was like, that Goodwill is really nice. That's a really clean, nice Goodwill. Because like the thrift stores I remember going to smelled bad and looked like shit and were depressing and had bad lighting.
Huh.
At least a lot of the ones I would go to, like the Salvation Armies and stuff. But anyway.
I used to go to the Salvation Army and Goodwill. This is a whole aside in a way I used to make money, and I think one of my friends still makes money for it. But at least where I grew up, there was a lot of factories and chemical companies, like quite a few near where I grew up. And the Goodwills and Salvation Armies would occasionally get like old office printers, which you would think wouldn't be worth money, but some of them were like specialty printers that you could turn around and sell on eBay for like $200 or $300, but you pay like $3 at the Goodwill. So me and my friend Britt used to just like pour through like every thrift store in the area looking for like weird office tech that's not really sold to the general public so we could resell on eBay. So that's my tip on making money, which I don't think Adam ever came up with because, as he said in the book, he had never watched a pirated movie until he lived in the homeless shelter.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like,
totally
holy shit,
that.
Did you not grow up on the internet? I know we're the same age. I grew up on the internet and totally was watching pirated movies before, forever. I can't imagine not having seen a pirated movie.
He's either a real big loser.
I think he's just incredibly square.
That's what I mean. Or B, a liar, or C, a little bit of both.
Probably a little bit of both, but I just think he's incredibly square.
He's very square. It comes across in the documentary, although he swore a little bit more than I expected in the documentary. But he has a whole thing in the opening of the book about the language you're about to read that I thought was really weird. It's like, that's why I thought like he was going to end up being like a evangelical Christian.
I think he does it because he wants to like fit in with the other people at the homeless shelter. I bet personally he doesn't want to swear that much, but I think he just realizes that it helps with the whole acceptance thing.
Well, he is talking about like even in his description in the book.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, where he's like, that was the other thing too, though, is that he was very much so like, and I guess there's nothing wrong with this. I'm sure at certain times I was just like looking for shit to criticize, but like I couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable when he would write, like in the beginning of the book, when he meets the guy at the bus stop who's like, why are you asking me? Why would I ask you for money? Whatever. And he's just writing in very, we'll call it faithful Ebonics.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it's more realistic than just having him talk like Adam Shepard, the square white guy or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I guess we described everything that happens in the book. I mean, any like the broad strokes that matter.
So for the big part, near the end of the book, before his mom gets cancer, he gets his ass kicked by his roommate. That's the only important part.
And his roommate's name is Bubblegum. He gets his ass kicked by a man named Bubblegum.
Just kicked his ass. I liked it. Favorite part of the book.
It was because, it was Adam who threw the first punch too.
It was, yeah. I mean, in Adam's defense, I've also lived with people before and just got to the point at some point, even though this was someone I really liked, I guess they liked each other too, to where we got into a fight with my first roommate, like a physical fight, just because we were both annoyed by each other because we were both being too passive aggressive about living together. Which is
then you become aggressive,
which is a downfall for roommates. You can't be passive aggressive about shit. You just gotta be up front.
Did you ever get to a point with a roommate where you just left nasty notes in each other's rooms?
No,
that actually sounds very. I mean, to genderize it, that seems a little bit more like how girls would. But that's what me and my first roommate did towards the end.
No, wait, I never got to that point really, but other ways of.
Well, I never got into a physical fight with any of my friends.
I had a roommate that never did dishes, and I remember just getting so sick of it one day that I took like every dish and just laid them out on his bed, dirty from the sink.
That's way worse than leaving a note.
Yeah, but it got the point across.
No, I mean, I was saying it's probably justified. I'm just saying that's way more intense than leaving a note.
Yeah, maybe that was the problem.
I would have wanted to kick your ass if you did that to me. Yeah.
I mean, the reason my altercation with the one roommate was because there was like a period I was like working at this factory, the car door factory, putting like the lining on car doors on a assembly line, and I worked like graveyard shift and was basically working like 6 to 7 days a week. But my roommate was like pissed that I never hung out, and they were having a party one night, and I was like got home and they're still partying, and like I was just going to go to sleep because I could sleep through anything, but like he had locked my door from the inside, and it really pissed me off. I was like, what the fuck, I just want to go to bed. And maybe I was just tired from working all the time, but because he had locked my door, I just decided to take his door off the hinges and I like threw it outside and was like, if you're going to lock my door, you can't have a door.
That's amazing. That's funny.
I don't know. And it was nonsense.
Yeah, my roommate squabbles were way less interesting than that. They were just passive aggressive. Not even, I mean, they were aggressive handwritten notes and then just like refusing to speak to each other while we lived together for like the last few months. Maybe, I don't know, it felt like months.
No, I mean, these aggressive things usually came after like a few weeks or months of not aggressive shit.
Sure, I can see. Yeah, that's the problem with the passive aggression. Yeah. That shit builds up.
Which is kind of what happened in the book too, and because his roommate kept borrowing his truck to like go to the store, but then he would be gone for like 5 hours. And you know, personally, I would get annoyed too.
Oh, totally. The way he described it was like almost inhumanly rude to the point where I was like, I think he's exaggerating.
He might be, but at the same time, I've kind of like
people are also shits.
I've had like similar stuff happen in weird ways. Maybe not with like a car, but like I could see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I would be pissed off too. I mean, the way Adam Shepard describes what his roommate does is like so.
But it also sounds like he was never just upfront with his roommate about it. Because like
he makes a point of like saying like he laid down the law of like you can't do this anymore. You know, I don't know, but like he made it sound like it went on and on and on, and then he snaps and then got his ass kicked. But
apparently him and his roommate became better friends after the ass kicking. And I will say, I have some experience from getting in fights with one or two friends and then like being a lot better after we got that aggression out.
Sure, I can see that.
Not that I condone fighting. Don't fight your friends. Figure out other ways to deal with shit. Like smoking a lot of weed.
Like writing nasty
comments on each other's Facebook wall.
This was like probably 2002, and at the time, like I worked at a no-kill pet shelter.
Yeah,
I worked with the cats, and my roommate actually worked at the same shelter, and he worked with the dogs.
And you were dated a girl who would like make you listen to the Shins.
Jesus. Fuck you. Actually, you know what? I have to think about it because I was dating a girl at the time who
made you listen to the
very
Shins.
Well would have made me listen to this shit. But
I'm fine with the Shins.
It was 2002, man. It was pre-Shins. It was pre like people not carry. Anyway, whatever. My point is I just want to say this one part where I found this note on my bed when I came home from work. And it was about the sickly cat that I adopted. She had this like leaky filmed over eye from birth because she had feline herpes from her mother. And
fucking slut cats.
Yeah. And I think basically what was going on was that we were just starting to kind of just be angry at each other as human beings. Cause like we really didn't do anything wrong to each other, even in the roommate sense.
I mean, it kind of happens.
Yeah. It's not surprising, but anyway, I just remember he wrote like, he referred to this precious cat that I loved and would have protected her for anything. Like, look, and he's like, if that beast does blah, blah, blah again. I forget even what his complaint was about the cat. I think there was like nothing. But he's like, if that beast something, I'm gonna like strangle her. He like something really violent that he's gonna do to this poor cat. And the thing was, I was at work all day thinking about that note. And you know, when like you just let a thought stew in your head all day.
Sure.
So I was just spending the whole day. I remember like vividly fantasizing about what I was going to do if I got home. And part of it involved throwing him through the big bay window on the second floor of our apartment. And anyway, I feel like I'm rambling a bit here. Down memory lane. But Adam Shepard, he wrote a shitty book. But not only that, he self-published this shitty book, and it somehow started gaining buzz to the point where major publisher, I think HarperCollins, published it, and also published other books that he wrote.
And now he's a speaker.
And now he's basically like
a Heritage Foundation speaker.
Yo, that's the other thing is he claimed that he wasn't going to be political at all in this book about pulling yourself up by your
bootstraps. Say it was like in your face political, but it was obviously that he was like,
yeah, because he's just hiding. It was all subtext. But yeah,
I wouldn't say Barbara's book was political either, but it is.
Yeah, but she's upfront about the fact that, like, you know, she was like a hippie in the 60s, and she's a socialist. Like, she does mention a few political things, but like, I mean, the whole point of her book is really, it's kind of narrowly focused in a way on just these are the realities of what would you even call it? Subsistence wage is like too nice of a term. Starvation wage?
Yeah, of starvation wages.
But anyway, we already talked about
That's her
book.
conclusion. His conclusion is that if you work hard, you can make it. Doesn't matter your other situations.
He says that he talks about the minimum wage, and so this would have been about 2007 when he's writing the book, I guess. And he says, if we raise the minimum wage to $10 an hour, which is still
Too low.
below the poverty line even then. He's like, if we do that, he was a big fan of Wendy's. He's like, then the Wendy's 99-cent menu would become a $1.99 menu. Like, as if that's like the most crushing argument for...
That's a lot of people's arguments, though.
I know, and it's so wrong and sad. But then he goes on to further say, if $7 an hour isn't enough for you, he says three things. What are they? He says, like, it's basically like, stop spending money on like frivolous things and just save better. So he's basically like, if you're buying beer and cigarettes, like, then you got no excuse, you know. And it's like, you know. And
now, if you have a smartphone, you have no excuse. It's austerity. It's a conservative, like, just austerity lifestyle. Is that it's your fault that you choose to try to get some enjoyment out of life.
But like, even
like, you don't have to have cable. You don't have to have a smartphone. You don't have to eat. You don't have to eat food that is fresh. You could eat everything from a can.
Yeah.
It's your fault that you're choosing not to be austere.
Yeah, it's your fault that you're choosing not to live like some twisted version of a monk or whatever, like where you only eat canned Vienna sausages like once a day.
People aren't designed that way.
Yeah, he does use the trope too of the like, yeah, well, those same poor people are just sitting back on their couch watching their big screen TVs. I'm like, oh fuck. That's when I like really threw my phone down, like. But then I think his one of his other solutions, quote unquote, to being stuck at $7 an hour is move back in with your family, or like join forces with friends and family. Which he means live in a studio apartment with 10 people. Yeah. Like, and then his last one. Now, remember now, the third one, which is the dumbest maybe of them all, was use that job as the stepping stone that it's meant to be. In which case he's just saying, like, be like me and work your way up through merits or whatever. And yeah, I mean, obviously that's just not possible for a lot of people, no matter what. You could be the greatest waitress of all time, server, I should say, whatever. You're not going to move up to $15 an hour no matter what you do.
I've had server friends make more than that, but just because they like,
you know what I
got
mean,
the right
like base hourly wage. Like,
yeah. I mean, my friends who made more than that were working at nice restaurants.
And yeah, so like that's the way he ends the book, is like, because in the very beginning he has all these like caveats or whatever, and like one, like I said already, one of them was like, I'm not going to be political. But when he gets to the end of his book and stops telling his story, he just kind of goes off on like his really half-baked, stupid conservative ideas about like what we need to do to make America better. And like a lot of it is just like, more classes on how to be financially savvy.
It's all just re-education. Just teach people to be better workers. Some of it I agree with, as I think I said on the original recording. I mean, like...
But you agreed with the idea of there should be more free education, and
yeah.
I pointed out, but you don't agree that it should replace, like, welfare.
No, of course not.
Which is what his argument essentially was.
Yeah, I know. So would you recommend the book?
No. I would recommend the documentary, though, because it's only an hour and it gives you way more of an instantaneous sense of how smug this douchebag is. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you feel like hate watching something that's in the vein of what we've just described to you, check out the very creatively entitled documentary. It's just on YouTube called American Dream. And yeah, I don't know. How about you? Do you recommend the book?
Oh, fuck no. It's bad.
I'm just really trying to remember without looking it up what the book he released after it was, because it was really, the premise was funny.
I'll never read another book by him.
I know, but it's just like what he did with his sort of success afterwards was so dumb. Like, he wrote like at least 2 more books, I think, after that.
How to Get Rich Eating the 99-cent Value Bills.
And yeah, now he's just trying to be like an inspirational speaker for hire. And he also has this really silly website called practice-empathy.com, which I think you just have to see to believe. And it's basically just a glorified t-shirt and hat company that has like a list of 7 ways to be more kind to people. Like, it's just hilariously stupid. And yeah, I think we covered everything well enough.
Yeah. Now
we're on to our third podcast recording of today, technically.
Yep.
So we're gonna pull ourselves up by our VIN straps.
No, by our throttles.
Yeah, throttles. By our
look, guys.
Corona.
Look, guys. We're gonna kick it into 9th gear and watch F9. We're going to fucking hit 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. Actually, that's not very fast, but I just want to keep using the number 9 because we're watching F9. Which I
live my life 9 miles at a time.
Which I expect to be better than Adam Shepard's American classic.
Scratch Beginning. Did we even say the title yet?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll give it to Adam. He is kind of the modern day Walden, but
Jesus, that hurts just to hear you say it.
Isn't he doing the same thing? Going out?
I mean, actually, I think what people have... I've never read Walden, but like, I think what I remember hearing someone say kind of recently about Thoreau was that he was like kind of a fail son whose parents basically paid for him to do that.
That's true.
I don't know if it's true or not, but...
It is. I don't have any problems with Thoreau, by the way, but yes, that's true.
So I guess he is kind of the modern... No, because at least Thoreau could fucking write, like, he could a turn of phrase, I think. I've read a couple of
phrases
paragraphs.
By him.
Actually, the only thing I read by him was, like, the thing about civil disobedience, which I think was actually a good essay, but, all right. I feel like I recommended something, though, at the end when we recorded this the first time, and I want to recommend it again because it was good. But maybe that's on the other episode. I can't remember.
I recommended not reading the book.
I think then my recommendation was on the other episode about watching Casino.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, just in case... Double feature, good double feature is Scorsese's Casino, followed by the same thing happened last time.
The Leonardo DiCaprio
The Departed.
Leo, the world's greatest actor.
You've said this before. All right, on to Fast 9.
Better than that pansy Christian Bale.
All right. Now it's time for us to have a fist fight.
I'm being 100% here. I would take little cutie pie Leo DiCaprio over Christian Bale every single time.
Are you talking about sex or about who's a better actor?
About who's the better actor. But I mean, They're both better than Daniel Day-Lewis.
You want to keep adding things, but we're like never going to stop this recording if I do.
Well, these days it's all about that love pie Christian Patterson, isn't it?
Christian Patterson.
Wait, is that not the Twilight guy? What the fuck's his name?
You've said this before, too.
I don't fucking do names.
Bobby Patts. Robert Pattinson.
All right, not Christian Patterson. Who the fuck's Christian Patterson?
You're sort of confusing Kristen Stewart, his famous girlfriend at one point, maybe.
She scowls a lot. That was problematic. I'm sorry.
All right, that's the end of this episode.
Goodbye.
못살 일은 절대 아냐 겨우내 버틴데도 너도 나도 우리도 뭐 이상한 감성적인 말은 하지 않는 게 좋니 이상한 망상의 말도 하지 말라 했지만 나 언제나 살아있도록 믿고 싶어 누구도 기억하지 않는다고 말처럼 쉽지 않다는 너를 저버렸을 때 결국엔 속겠지 뭐 너도 나도 우리도 뭐 이상한 감성적인 말은 하지 않기 전에 이상한 망상의 말도 하지 말라 했지만 나 언제나 살아있다고 믿고 싶어 누구도 기억하지 않는다고
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?